This module describes procedures that should be applied to safely and correctly anchor a boat. It is reasonably straightforward, however it must be done correctly to prevent damage to the anchor winch or boat. It is also important to prevent injury to crew or a fatality, due to becoming fouled in the anchor chain or the boat sinking after dragging the anchor and running aground. When and where to anchor is made by the skipper, after taking into consideration many factors including under-keel clearance, tidal variation, proximity to other boats, the shore, rocks or reefs, available room for the boat to swing on the anchor, as well as current and forecast wind and swell. Before dropping the anchor, it is essential for the skipper to provide any special instruction, including how much chain to pay out. The chain will be marked at intervals and the crew will need to be able to identify each marking. Next, the crew dropping the anchor should consider wearing wet weather gear to keep dry in heavy weather, as well as a PFD and eye protection. If the anchor chain is allowed to run free or surge, rust flakes may fly from the chain and become an eye hazard. To drop the anchor, the first step is to use the anchor winch to haul in any slack chain between the chain stopper or turnbuckle and the windlass. The chain stopper or turnbuckle can then be removed, and the windlass, which includes that part of the winch housing the chain, is then knocked out of gear. The brake can then be released and the anchor should now run free towards the seabed. It's important to use the brake to regulate the surging speed of the chain, to ensure it does not pile up on itself on the seabed. At this stage, the skipper may slowly reverse the boat to help lay the chain on the seabed. The remainder of the chain should be paid out until the required marker is reached. The brake should then be applied to the windlass and the skipper informed that the chain marker has been reached. Slowly reversing the boat will help set the anchor into the seabed. The skipper should then indicate all is well. The chain stopper or turnbuckle should be used, the windlass put in gear, and a little more chain paid out so there is slack chain between the windlass and stopper. This ensures any strain on the anchor chain is not transferred to the winch, which is not designed as a strong point to secure the boat. With the boat now at anchor, the skipper should note the exact position of the boat and distance from any hazards. Careful monitoring of this position is essential in case the boat drags the anchor. When the anchor is to be hauled, or weighed, good communication between the crewperson and the skipper is again essential, particularly to ensure the anchor is weighed correctly and safely, and without damage to the anchor winch. The crew hauling the anchor should again consider wearing wet weather gear, a PFD, and eye protection. This person will need to use an outstretched arm to indicate the direction and approximate angle of the anchor chain relative to the boat. For instance, an outstretched arm pointing dead ahead at 45 degrees means the anchor chain is leading dead ahead from the boat at an angle of 45 degrees. The anchor chain will first need to be hauled a little bit to take up tension in the chain and allow the chain stopper or turnbuckle to be released. Commence, and the skipper will need to apply some throttle to move the boat forward, in the direction of the chain indicated by the crew. The crew should use their arm to indicate how the angle of the chain changes as the boat approaches the anchor itself. As the chain is hauled on board, it is essential to observe that the chain correctly engages in the windlass, particularly as chain can jump off a worn windlass and cause damage to the winch. If this occurs, the chain stopper or turnbuckle will need to be used to take the weight of the chain then paid out a little until it is slack, and the chain manually put back in the windlass. It is a good idea to wear gloves to protect the fingers as pinching and crushing can occur when handling the chain. On some boats it may be necessary for a crew to flake or spread the chain out evenly in the anchor locker as the chain is being hauled. This prevents the chain piling up, falling over, and possibly becoming snagged next time the anchor is used. This is a noisy job and the risk of finger injury is high, so hearing protection and wearing gloves is advisable. As the anchor leaves the seabed, the crew should hold their outstretched arm by their side, pointing downwards. Alternatively, a shout of away can be made. At this point the crew will need to be on the lookout to ensure that when the anchor leaves the water it is hauled correctly and snugly against the hull. It is also important to check there is nothing fouled on the anchor, and any mud should be washed off. Excellent. You have now completed the winch and hauling gear safety module. Now we will review the material that we covered.